All righty. So this session, it's, I don't know exactly, I think it's called Achieving Collective Impact and involved with CCNet and CMP. And this session came out of some discussions that Christina and I can't remember who else were involved in way back when we were planning for the rally in 2020. And we thought there's just a lot going on in CMP and CCNet, and a lot of people don't understand the connection between the two groups, how we work together, collaborate, but how we're a little different too. And we also thought that a lot of people we've heard don't really know how to get involved with either group. And so we thought it would be fun to run a session like this where we really do focus on what do the different groups do and how do we work together, how are we different, and how can you get involved. So our objective is that the participants, community members, will understand what CMP and CCNet are and how we work together, what we have going on, and how you can get involved. So we're going to start out just briefly with some introductions, an icebreaker exercise, and then Terry's going to lead us through an overview of CCNet and CMP. Then we'll move into some highlights of specific initiatives that we have going on, and then you'll have an opportunity to spend 2 breakout sessions working with or learning more about these different initiatives. So, and then we'll come back in plenary, do some reflections, and then the evaluation for the overall workshop. So if you are having any trouble getting into Miro, maybe put that in the chat, and we'll the facilitators will try to help monitor that. But what we want to do now is actually, I'm going to show you first how to navigate your way through Miro. First off, in the bottom left here, you should have a bar like this. And if you click this, the thing that says frames, you will get kind of a visual table of contents that you can click on any one of these and they'll jump you to a different section. So that's kind of a useful way to be able to quickly navigate somewhere. The other way you can navigate is you can use your arrow key. So just hit on this and basically keep your mouse pressed down, and you can scroll around back and forth. Up and down. You can make yourself dizzy. You can zoom in on any particular part by using, if you have a wheel on your mouse. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm just rolling the wheel on my mouse to zoom in and out. You also have down here, you should have a window, or maybe it's not a window for you, it's just a bar, but I think if you click one of these, it will pop up as a window, and there's a zoom in and a zoom out option. So those are ways to navigate to in here. I think if you want to click on anything, most things that you can edit are, or most things that are not locked that you'll be doing in your exercises, you're going to be able to edit. But other things, like I can't do anything with this map, it's locked. So hopefully we caught everything that needed to be locked, and we won't inadvertently, any of us, move things around. So I think that is maybe enough to get you going on Miro. Terri, is there anything else you wanted me to mention?
That's it.
Okay. I guess one other thing, some of these, I did forget to mention this. We do have resources in this board, so you can come back here to find these resources. They'll also be in the folder. Christina's created a drive of folders, and we'll make sure that we put things like the presentation in there, and other things that you might want to reference later. But all of these, if you see an image like this, it links to a presentation. You can either see the presentation directly in here by hitting these arrows, and you can go back and forth, or you can link out to the source. And this is going to open up a new window where this Google Slide presentation lives. Same with this. Here's your link to the session high-level drive that I mentioned, and that's where we'll store the recordings and any other files. But most places where you see a link or an image, they're linked, and you just click this little box that says source to get to where it links out to. And I'm going to leave it at that for now. We'll give you some more tips as we go along. But our exercise to start things off is to get you to tell us where you are. And we are looking at the world from a perhaps unfamiliar perspective. And we thought it would be fun to look at it this way and try to orient ourselves. So if you can come up here and you just take a sticky and you pull it to where you are, you just hold down on it and pull, and then you can write your name in there. And you double click on it to write your name and then just start typing. And if you're running into any problems, please mention those in the chat box. So it looks like we've got some people from the US. We've got people, this is going to take me a while.
Caroline, you have a hand up too.
Oh, I do.
Gabriella?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Gabriela. You are on mute, Gabriela, if you are trying to ask a question. All right, well, we'll see if she's able to. Gabriela, if you are trying to ask a question, you can also put it into the chat box if you're not able to unmute. All right, let's see, we've got.
Everybody doing?
Yep. Got Oscar down in Guatemala. We have. Oh, we have people having fun with arrows. Let's see, Anissa over in Australia, Catherine too. We got somebody in Malaysia, La Vernita. All right.
Caroline, we don't need to write our names in it, do we?
I did. Yeah,
Oh.
actually you do, because that's part of the way you learn the tool. So double click on it and put your name in it so that we know you've learned how to interact with Miro a little bit. What I find very interesting is we thought this would be a convenient time for the Asia Pacific area, and I'm seeing that there are a lot of people in the US working late joining this session.
Yes, there are.
What does that say about things? And Oscar too, it's probably pretty late where you are, Juana.
So James is having problems zooming on a Mac with the trackpad. I've had that issue before too, where it thinks you're using trackpad versus mouse. So how do you change that?
I don't know how to change it, but James, if you can still see my screen over here, there is a, you can use the zoom in and zoom out
Caroline?
button.
In the top right, if you have, there are like 3 lines with little arrows or dots on them. If you click on that button, one of the options should be navigation mode, and then you can select mouse, trackpad, or touchscreen.
Oh, well, aren't
I'm
you
sorry,
fancy?
once more, that's in the upper right, did you say?
In the upper right, yeah, there should be where you can see it on Caroline's
Right after
screen.
the meeting, right?
Yep,
Is it
exactly.
this? This has
No,
note.
over to
I-
the left, Caroline, right by your
Over-
share button.
The,
The
the
three
three up and
lines.
down lines.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, right here. I was going way too far over to the right. So
Navigation mode.
Okay, gotcha.
navigation mode.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep.
All right. Learn
Boy,
something new every
you
day.
saved me too.
Good. Thank you. All right. All right. Great to see everybody from all over the place. It looks like we've got yep, some people in Micronesia joining us. Awesome. I think we can move on, Terry, to
Okay. So our first, this is an exercise. So it's just to the right. Carolyn will zoom over where you can see in these two panels, the orange and the green panel. We'd like to know your general impressions of what might you not know. And it's saying my internet's unstable. So we'll see. Hopefully I won't freeze up. But if you would take one of those, go to one of those stickies and let us know what you know about these two organizations, that would be great. Describe CMP in 5 or fewer words. And the same for CCNet.
and don't worry about it if you accidentally move a box around. That's totally fine.
And we'll give you about 5 or so minutes to do this. We'll see when people seem to be done.
Five words is not a lot of words.
Well, we'll give you 6, Adrian.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I took
appreciate
the
it.
liberty of using 7. Couldn't
The
limit
main point
myself to
is
5.
don't write a
Yes.
novel.
Yeah, don't worry about and no testing. We're just curious where we're starting from, and then we'll see where we end up at the end of this session. So I love what we're seeing. CCNet is a network of fun, smart, committed folks. Love that. And CMP, it says the curators of conservation standards.
CS cockpit, somebody.
Wonderful. Awesome collaborative group of conservationists for CCNet. Guiding conservation globally, holding hands. Another CCNet, very nice. And CMP network of effective CS using organizations. Great. Good thoughts. Here's 5 words for CMP. Leading edge, reflexive, learning organization.
Maybe we'll take some of these and reconsider our taglines, right?
Yes, exactly.
Could you just clarify, being a non-tech person, you just click on the space you want to enter the words into, or you
Yes.
need to do?
I think you might need to double click.
Double click.
Yes,
yeah.
double click.
And you can't do it on
Okay.
this shared Zoom screen. You have to be in your own browser.
You have to be in your own, yes. So
Yes,
did you?
that's a great point. Yep. In fact, if it's distracting, I will stop sharing my screen while we're interacting with Zoom.
The other thing worth mentioning is that if you're getting like the hand symbol when you move around, go to where the like arrow thingy is, because
on the left?
Yeah,
Mhm.
on the left and at the top of that bar on the left.
Right here. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because you don't want to be in navigation mode. You want to be in whatever the other mode is called, one with
Great.
a little pointy arrow.
Mhm.
We'll give you guys a couple more minutes. Oh, Mac has problem controlling with the trackpad. So again, you can go up to with the 3 up and down lines, and you can change your navigation mode to mouse if you want to. If you want to do it that way, so that there you've got the different options. And we're spending a little time on this because in your breakout sessions, you will be using other parts of this board to be sharing thoughts, et cetera. So it's good to make sure you're comfortable with it before we go there. And if you've finished entering your thoughts here, we're going to go one more to the right. So kind of scroll over.
Oh, actually, I think that comes in the next session.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, that's the entry
Okay,
to the
never
talking
mind.
about initiatives. Mhm.
I can't keep it all straight. All right. So give yourself a couple more minutes. So don't go over there. I'm sorry, I sent you to the wrong place. Stay on the general impressions for CCNet and CMP. And in another minute or two, we'll have Caroline stop sharing, and I'll start with the PowerPoint and give you an overview of the 2 organizations.
All right. So shall I go to you're running the PowerPoint, Terry, or? Okay.
Yes, I will.
All right. So I will stop sharing.
All right, thank you all. Now let me get it into presentation mode. Share. So most of you are familiar somewhat with Conservation Measures Partnership and with, see if I can go up. I'm going up there. There's the beginning. Sorry about that. Google Slides, I'm not so adept at. We're familiar with one of these organizations probably because we came here because of that. But we may not be so as familiar with the other organization. So we're going to give you just an overview of the 2, Conservation Coaches Network and the Conservation Measures Partnership, and talk about how we work together. And my name is Terri Schulz, and I work for the Nature Conservancy, but I'm also the Conservation Coaches Network representative on the Conservation Measures Partnership board. So I feel like I sit in a unique position of understanding both of the organizations, sitting on both of the boards. So the Conservation Coaches Network, this is from our last time many of us were together in Australia, and we hope to be there again in another year. I wanted to just pull some information, which we heard a lot of this from John last night, but thinking about the Conservation Coaches Network, those who might not have been able to come to the plenary because it was the middle of your night or other reasons, let me just go through what each of the organizations is and how we work together so we can all be on the same page and understand where we're all coming from. So the Conservation Coaches Network, and our tagline there is strengthening conservation strategies and practice through coaching. We are a global community of trained professional coaches that use the conservation standards to strengthen conservation action and results around the world. We are a group of individuals. That's one distinguishing factor, and who belong to a lot of different conservation organizations, many of us, or are professionals who do this for a living. And I wanted to highlight our values, as John did last night, that we are results-oriented, inclusive and diverse, innovative and strive for excellence. We are distributed responsibly, distributed responsibility and non-hierarchical. Again, we're not about who you work for, but that you're here to help others use conservation standards to improve conservation. And we have a culture of cooperation. What is this other organization? I think many of us do know that the Conservation Measures Partnership is where the conservation standards come from, but let's talk a little bit more about that. The tagline for Conservation Measures Partnership is guiding the practice of conservation. And it is a community of conservation-oriented NGOs, government agencies, funders, and private businesses that work collectively to guide conservation around the world. So it's a group, it's an organization of organizations versus an organization of individuals like CCNet. And as the stewards of the conservation standards, which several people put in the custodians or the conservation standards or something similar, this organization seeks to have better ways to manage, design, measure, and the impacts of conservation action. So it's about the process. And the vision for Conservation Measures Partnership is conservation impacts around the world are amplified as teams use evidence, measure effectiveness, and openly share lessons with the conservation community. Both of these organizations are in the service of better conservation around the world. So how do we work together? We have had for, I'm not sure quite how long, maybe 10 years, an MOU that outlines how we will work together. And more recently, the CCNet's rep to CMP, myself, and CMP's rep to CCNet, Will Beale, have worked together to make sure we're in coordination and that we're sharing the fact that we are working in cooperation such as this. So the MOU between the two organizations focuses on 4 areas: good governance, communication, and collaboration. And I'll show you some examples of this in the next few slides. Promotion and evolution of good conservation practice, so conservation standards, for example. Developing evidence in support of conservation standards in conservation practice, and capacity development and institutionalization. So in terms of good governance, communication, and collaboration, the website is a great example of that. Representatives from CCNet and CMP worked together with a consultant that was hired to create a website where there's clear messaging and coordination between the Conservation Standards, Conservation Measures Partnership, and Conservation Coaches Network portions or interactions of those websites. Another example of this governance, communication, and collaboration is the CCNet listserv. That's not restricted just to CCNet members. It's CMP members, anyone who wants to have access and participate in that conversation that we have over the listserv is welcome to participate in that. We're working collaboratively on the Conservation Measures Partnership is doing a strategic plan update, and CCNet is doing a strategic plan update, and we're sharing that and talking about collaborating in these updates to our strategic plans. CMP has a membership strategy, and we're trying to ensure that if Conservation Coaches Network organizations would like to be a part of the CMP membership, that they know how to do that and can join. And then we're also cooperating on things like equity, diversity, inclusion, and justice, and sharing board members like myself. In terms of promotion and evolution of good conservation practice, the websites again, I'm sorry about that. The websites again are another great way to share that information. The updated PowerPoints that were just released this year were looked at collaboratively by the two organizations. They're the learning initiatives that you'll spend a lot of time learning about here. Translation of the conservation standards into various languages. There were many CCNet members that identified folks who could do those translations for us and worked with them to make sure they work well. The case study competition and video series are another 2 examples of how we've worked together on promotion and evolution of good conservation practice. Developing evidence in support of the conservation standards, some of the collaborative initiatives like conservation audit and effectiveness, and then CCNet's global measures. And lastly, certainly not least, is capacity development and institutionalization. We did an update on conservationtraining.org training course. Durrell is doing an introduction to conservation standards course that we've looked at and evaluated and thought it was a good course for people to take. University of Wisconsin Conservation Essentials course, coach certification, practitioner certification, and the coaches rally are all good examples of capacity development and institutionalization. And that is my last slide. So I hope you have a little better sense of who we all are. And if there are any questions, we have a minute or two, we could dive into questions if people have any. And feel free to put them in the chat or raise your hand. Great. Right.
All right.
So you
Wonderful.
proceed.
Okay.
Caroline, yes.
So we are going to go back to the Miro board for another exercise for this next part. So you've heard a bit about CMP and CCNet and how what these two groups do and how they interact together. Before we dive into a little more detail on initiatives, we'd love to hear from you what you already know, what's your baseline. So if you guys can take a couple minutes just to add some material into these boxes about any initiatives you know about and what they do, that'd be great.
And can you give a little more detail on what you're looking for in terms of initiatives?
Well, Terri mentioned some of them, so you could put something like the website or the collaborative learning. And there's, this is not, it's really more to give us an idea. We are curious whether people know much about the initiatives. And if not, then we need to be thinking about how we can get the word out. And so that's a big objective behind this session, is to help
Very
people
helpful.
be more familiar.
Yep, very helpful. I'm a bit of a geek about the new website, so I'm afraid I've combed it endlessly.
That's wonderful to hear.
So, because it was so exciting to see how much things have changed, and so yeah, I send a lot of people to the website.
That's great.
And so, yeah, I thought you were maybe thinking about other initiatives in comparison or something. I'm sorry. I missed
No,
that.
just anything that you know of that CMP or CCNet are doing either on their own or together. Yeah.
And if you're new to this community, I have to admit that I was not so aware of these initiatives, the more, I guess, capital I initiatives, until I joined the board of CMP. So that's one reason why we're doing this session.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Right, so I see we've got the DEIJ, JEDI stuff, Conservation Essentials course, which is also related to the Training Tomorrow's Leaders work, the case study competition, coach training, great, website, not much, sorry, which I don't, pardon?
Sorry. I see improving effectiveness.
Mm-hmm. And then some, yeah, we've heard a couple people say that they don't know a whole lot, which is perfectly fine. That's why you're here. And we want to learn how to be better at letting people know what's going on. So, and we will get to that too in this session.
I also see institutionalization. Institutionalizing, there it is.
Mhm. Yep.
Rallies.
Mhm.
Okay.
All
and
right.
Updating CS 4.0.
Mhm.
There's one near and dear to your heart.
Yeah. When John mentioned that on the, the plenary last night, that caught me off guard. I'm not ready for 5.0. All right, this is great. Good to see all these ideas. I'd be curious if at the end of this session, hopefully, we're hoping you would know more and you could add more to here, but let's go over and I will tell you more about the initiatives. And we also have many or several of our initiative leads here who are going to tell you about their work as well. So let me get into present mode here. So I am going to dive straight into, I'm going to wait for this to load on my computer. There we go. All right, I'm gonna start off before we have 4 leads from different initiatives, and we have 1 recording from somebody who is in a incompatible time zone. So you'll be able to hear a slightly more in-depth overview of 5 different initiatives, but I'm gonna share just kind of a high-level overview of these are focused on, this says CMP initiatives, but they are CMP initiated or led, but they are actually quite, they involve CCNet, they involve the conservation standards community much more broadly. And I think that's what makes them so successful, is it really is a collaboration among all these different groups. So I'm going to show you where you can go to find out about these initiatives. So in our new website, we have under the CMP website, there is a tab that is initiatives. And if you click on that, it will take you into the initiatives, and you scroll down and it will tell you a bit about the different initiatives that we have going on. This actually needs some updating right now. We've been we've kind of reorganized things a little bit and haven't reflected that on the website yet, but we're getting there. And in this space too, there's a link to what we call a CMP workspace. And this is a workspace where all of our initiatives have pages and subpages where they can store their information, their notes, their products, and make them accessible to the rest of the community. So I'm going to show you, this is, if you were to click on that, that would take you over to the workspace. There's some basic member information and governance documents, but what's relevant mostly to this session here is this tab that has initiatives, and then it goes down and there are a whole bunch of initiatives here. So diving a little bit further into there, if you were to click on that, you would then be able to see, we have overview slideshows like what you're going to see now of recordings and presentations of the kind of what we call initiative showcases, where we do these 3-minute overviews of what's going on with an initiative and how you can get involved. This is something we've started doing a little over a year ago, and we've been inviting the CCNet community to all CMP conservation and practice sessions, we call them, but also just so you all are aware, every 2 or 3 meetings we do an initiative showcase, and we will have one in December of this year, and I'll be sending out an update about that. So you can look at ones that have already happened. You can also go over to our YouTube channel. There's where we have the recordings posted there. I'm gonna escape out of this just to do a little bit of a live demo over. Now I'm actually in the workspace itself, And just I'm going to scroll down here and you can see there are quite a few initiatives. This is something that is publicly available. So you can get there through the website as I just showed you. There's also a link in our Miro board if you wanted to come in. And you're going to hear from 5 of these initiatives today, but I'll just give you a quick high-level overview of a few you won't hear from, but that have been very active. So one is the audits group that has been led by Sheila O'Connor and Elizabeth O'Neill over the years. And you've probably seen some emails around that have gone out. They spent a good year and a half updating an audit tool. The purpose of the audit tool is to help organizations understand where they are in terms of implementing the conservation standards steps. It's not meant to look at the effectiveness of their work, but really to focus on the process. So through this work, they tested, they updated the audit tool, and they're looking for people to continue testing that. And so I would say if you're interested in this, you can be in touch with Sheila or Elizabeth. They're not directly involved with this lately, but they can definitely let you know how to engage a little more on that. If I click over here on the collaborative learning one, you've probably heard about this initiative. This is at a higher level, just to mention that this is something over the last few years. CMP has been fortunate enough to have some support from the Moore Foundation to think about and identify topics of interest to CMP, to the CCNet, to the conservation standards community, and to more, and then to put out money for proposals to address these topics. And so you can see there have been a whole bunch of things that have been funded over the last few years. You can look in here to learn more about any one of them, to see the products. And we've also, you may have seen these mini webinar series that we've been hosting over the last year. Those have focused quite a bit on sharing the results of this work, and we'll continue to do that over the next year, or as we continue this initiative. Maybe quickly, since this has come up, there is a promotion initiative, and this has developed this, well, this group worked on, or some members of this group worked on the website. They also have been working on these promotional campaigns that, or the promotional campaigns. So the testimonial videos, the really short anthem videos, and this is continuing. So if you wanted to get in touch with any of these people here, they could point you in the right direction for how to be involved. And maybe one other, the Guidance Review Committee. This is very much a joint CMP and CCNet committee. And Marcia, who's on this call, leads that. But what this group does is, if an organization or a CS community member is interested in having any of their products or their guidance reviewed, they can share it with the guidance committee, and it's a cross-organizational committee that will take a look at it and kind of assess it against a bunch of different standards, and then come up with an overall vetting. And the reason that they do this is to kind of help a visitor to the website be able to sift through all of the resources and find ones that are most relevant to them. So I think I will leave it at that, but I do invite you to scroll through and check out these different initiatives and get in touch with the leads. I would also say, if you are interested in being involved, if you are still uncertain what to do, you can always just email me and I will put you in touch with the right people. So then, just to close on the high level overview, I wanted to mention that there are a few initiatives that are presenting during this rally outside of this session. So I would definitely encourage you to go and check those out. And I now have a little note for myself to stop recording and start it again. This is mainly because we need to record for tomorrow's session a couple of the overview presentations, and we want to have not enormous files. So I'm going to stop